Welcome to Aunty Lou's Hour. If you like this podcast, please like, comment, share, and subscribe.
Lisa, I'm so glad that you're here. I finally have a chance to meet you, but let me introduce you properly. So you are a BACP accredited integrative counsellor and psychotherapist. You're based in Northwest and you bring your own lived experience of being HIV positive and in recovery from drug addiction, domestic violence, and complex trauma. And you blend it in an authentic storytelling and understanding. And you also run your own private practice, and it's called the North Star Therapy and Training. What part of the world is that in? Is that in Northwest as well? North Star Therapy.
Yeah, that's in the Northwest. Yeah, Preston, Lancashire area. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
But I do online stuff as well, so anywhere really.
Anywhere around the world. Yeah. So alongside founding 2 community interest companies, you also deliver trauma-informed mentoring, training, and creative recovery projects. Wow. And around addiction, mental health, care experience, and marginalisation. So we're going to get into all that later. And you're really quite passionate about amplifying lived experiences, and you want to break down stigma. And you do this in a really kind of down-to-earth way, empowering and inspiring. Wow, what a woman!
I try.
What a woman. So can we go back to little Lisa? Can we start?
Yeah.
Like, what was it like growing up? Have you got brothers and sisters? And then take us through as you got older.
Yeah, so life growing up. So I'm from a very loving family. I did have a brother who unfortunately got very sick when he was only young. So he got diagnosed with leukemia when he was 6 and fought for quite a few years and was had various horrible treatments and died after about 4 or 5 years trying to survive that. So he died when I was just coming 16, just before college. So after school and in that transitional period before school and college. So obviously that had an impact on my life because it was spent a lot of my parents' time was spent in hospital, rightly so, and caring for him. And that really had a massive impact, obviously, on the whole family. I have been brought up around my mum and dad, where I suppose that some people would describe them as hippies. My dad was a builder. My dad was a bricklayer, so he really worked really hard for the family. But I was surrounded by lots and lots of love, lots of positive parenting and reinforcement and consistency. A lot of music. We were always around music. My dad played guitar and sang, so there was always big gatherings at my house.
What genre was he into? What genre did you like?
Like folk, Bob Dylan, Roy Harper, lots of kind of this Rolling Stones, things like that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, acoustic stuff, not the I call it the dreary folk, not the dreary folk where people are singing with one finger in their ear, but yeah, lots of like Donovan, things like that.
Yeah.
So it was beautiful. It was a beautiful childhood, fantastic, around lots of people that loved and cared for us, and and gave us that nurturing, really. Yeah. And then obviously things kind of changed drastically when my brother got poorly, and things had to change because his immune system wasn't coping. So we had to be very careful about who we came into contact with, limit numbers, everything had to be sterilized. So that was a big change in the family dynamic.
Yeah, because was it just the two of you, you and your brother?
Yeah,
That sounds pretty heavy, actually. I can imagine how that was. So as you got on to like your early 20s, what was life like then?
So I took a really downward spiral. I suppose that's the only way to describe it. After my brother died, um, I I suppose in a way I wanted to escape any feelings that I had. I was incredibly depressed, but didn't feel able to show it um to anybody, and didn't really understand it. In a way, I don't suppose I knew how or what to do. There wasn't really an answer to it, and I at that point turned to drugs, which were like a magic potion to me. So it was like either get away from the world or use substances to get away from the world. And that kind of brought me into, and it started off like a lot of other people talk about, it started off with smoking a spliff, and then it was kind of the rave scene. I'm that
Yeah,
age. I'm that age.
yeah, I know the
Um,
rave scene. I
yeah,
know that.
yeah. And you know what? I never really in my head, in my mind, this is the craziness. In my mind, I kind of can think, oh yeah, I was involved in it, but I wasn't. I wasn't. That was all going on around me whilst I was just using. So I went to college, got some qualifications at college, but in the background I was living kind of, I suppose, a double life. Because I didn't want to upset anybody either. Um so I was living a double life really with, using drugs. And it was a cycle of, the cannabis. It was that time when it was like amphetamines, um, acid, and then it just progressed from there. I left college, got work, but really almost lived a double life for quite a long time. I went traveling as well, so I kind of had a little group of people that I hung around with, that were all experimenting and using substances. Some of them were going off to raves, but I spent most of that time just sat in a flat really, sat around people doing that stuff while various other people came and went in convoy to the hacienda or illegal raves in warehouses. But I wasn't really part of that. I was just really, my priority was rather the drugs rather than the dancing and stuff. So I did a bit of traveling. Um, Thought I could maybe get away from me in my delusion. I went traveling, went and did a stint. Lived Went to Egypt and Israel, and then I went down to London for a while. But my drug using progressed, and it just kind of, so it that got worse up until late 20s and early 30s. It just kind of took a spiral down to
Was alcohol part of the menu? Was alcohol on the menu as well, or predominantly
it
drugs?
was on it was if I couldn't get, so it wasn't my favorite, it wasn't my go-to, but if I couldn't get anything else, then it was definitely, it was definitely there. So if I couldn't get anything, any other drugs, then alcohol would definitely be, if I was
Yeah.
abroad, where some places abroad, it's a lot harder and a lot riskier to get drugs. So if I was abroad, then I would drink. I wouldn't say dependently, but I would definitely drink to not just to enjoy. I hear people talking about it and I still can't understand it, So I just like the taste. I just like a little glass of wine. That was not me. If I'm
Yeah.
drinking, it was drinking to get absolutely.
Yeah, I hear
Well,
that.
in my mind, it would be I want to feel merry, but it would
Yeah.
never stay at the merry bit. It would always far exceed that.
But you know what? On that, when kids first start drinking, I don't know many kids that go, "Oh, this is wonderful." The majority of kids say, or they cough or they don't like it. So actually, as human beings, it feels like we have to train ourselves to like alcohol. Like we have to train ourselves. We keep drinking. So do you remember when alcohol pops came in?
Yeah, yeah,
The Bacardi breezers and all that. And that's another way
yeah,
to train yourself to try and
yeah,
enjoy it. You make it sweet. You put like Baileys and just to disguise how awful it is. And then all of
yeah,
a sudden, you end up liking it. You like that sharp hit at the back of your throat. You
yeah.
like the wooziness. And I do wonder if alcohol didn't make us so woozy, would we still enjoy it? Would we go so far with it?
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't have done because yeah, it was definitely the effects that I was going for. And I did feel so when around the time that Alka-Pops came out, that was the time that I was starting to get into recovery. And I have to
Okay.
admit that I was glad of that in a way. In retrospect, I'm glad of that because that would have just been, yeah, I would have just and all the things around the different flavored gins and all that
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
people kind of get obsessed about now, the different all the different flavors. I would
Mm.
definitely have, well, probably have
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, used that to my advantage. Yeah.
Mm, mm, mm. So you traveled a lot, you've done a lot of drugs, and then what happened? There must have been a turning point at some point. What was that?
Yeah, so it was so I tried for many, many years to do this double social acceptability to the outside world. I went to university, didn't last very long,
Mm.
but I had jobs. I wasn't happy in the jobs, but I was literally working to get money to be able to fund my drug habit.
What do you mean by social acceptability?
So it was more, I didn't want to be a problem
Yeah,
to
yeah.
anybody, to family, to society, to anybody. I didn't want to be a burden on anybody. I didn't want anybody worrying about me. Um, so I had this facade of, well, I'm working full time and I'm going to uni. You know, I've got these plans. I've got and to the external, it was manageable, but
Mm,
really behind closed doors, it wasn't. It
mm.
wasn't at all. So that's what I mean about
Wow.
that I think there's a line that gets crossed sometimes, and that doesn't mean to say that that line is worse or better or anything like that. Just my perception at that point in my 20s, late teens, 20s, was if I can just carry on as though from the out to the outside that I'm doing all
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
then it will be all right.
I love the way you articulate that because so many people are going to relate, but I've not heard it in that way, social acceptability. I really like the way that you phrase that. So you were doing that, and then,
And I had to drop out of university um because of my drug use. It was
mm,
so chaotic. It was chaotic. So by this point, I have moved from so quite a few of my friends when I was in my early 20s, my main friendship group, which was a small group where that all lived around where I was brought up, um, they died of various things, all drug related. So either overdose, complications with one friend, one very close friend overdosed. Well, two overdosed. One had a huge asthma attack, that was possibly brought on by drugs, um, and then suicide as well. So I was obviously impacted by all that along the way.
mm,
Um, and I'd always said that I wouldn't do certain things. You know, I hated heroin because somebody that I loved dearly had overdosed off heroin and died. Um, and I was in a situation where I started using heroin, and I'm not going to say that I don't want to say I crossed a line then because the line was crossed way before that.
yeah,
Now I
yeah,
now
yeah.
understand. I understand that now, but I didn't at the time. Um,
Mm,
but I started using drugs that I'd said that I would never take, and becoming dependent on them. physically and psychologically. And with that, obviously, the things like they become the priority. I was associating with people who I didn't really want to be around. I was having to be around them. My moral standards started slipping.
Yeah.
Because I was having to be around certain people that were doing things that I didn't agree with. I knew it was wrong. I knew things that they were doing was wrong, stealing, shoplifting,
Yeah.
scrounging off family, all that stuff that people would do, stealing off families, violence came into the equation.
But you wanted to feel better. Was
Mm-hmm.
that what the drugs
Yeah.
were doing? So
Yeah.
all you explained,
Yeah.
why? Why did you stay in it? Was it because of that feeling
Yeah.
that you were searching for?
I think I've always been attracted to things that aren't good for me. The
Okay.
way that I describe it now, and this still happens, so this is not, I'm not cured.
Yeah.
I am just naturally attracted, innately attracted to things that are not going to be good for me. And I have to do a lot of work around that to this day. I have
Yeah.
to put action in to being aware of that and and really making informed choices and slowing myself down. I call it pressing pause. So I have to do a lot of work, even today, years, decades on. I have to press pause on myself
I'm
and wind the tape
fascinated.
forward.
I find that quite fascinating. Is that because I mean, I was brought up Catholic, so there's no way that I'm gonna want, I'm exaggerating, but I feel I was more kind of indoctrinated into from very young, you behave yourself, you're going to hell, But the fact that you felt that you've got a pattern or a history of being attracted to things that don't often serve you. What,
Yeah.
I'm just curious, do you think that was the excitement of it or the fun, the adventure?
Well, I've done a lot of work around this and I've studied quite a bit around it. And the simplest way that I can describe it is looking at the science and the brain chemistry, is that yes, I think that certain pathways in the brain, um, even things like, the stress hormone cortisol, you can,
Yeah.
for me anyway, I think sometimes it took me a long time, especially when I got into recovery eventually, to not be attracted to drama, not be attracted to people who were going to bring drama to me.
Yeah.
Because even without drugs, if I'm living in the right way, it means that I minimize the drama and I have quite a peaceful life. And I believe anyway that my pathways are kind of already wired up to
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
along those paths.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I believe anyway that I had to make new pathways instead of just falling into the same old ones, because it's in my nature. Also, I'm quite sociable. I'm very friendly, and I've had to really look at how friendly I am, because I'll just befriend anybody. If somebody, walked past the window and looked, hot, a bit disheveled, or looked like they needed something. Yeah, exactly. And I've
Yeah.
had to work on kind of reeling that back in and saying, what's going on here? Why is it that I feel a need
Yeah.
to do that?
Yeah.
And is it serving me, like you said? Is it serving me
Yeah.
to be open to possibly chaotic influences in life? But I still have that in it, I believe. Anyway, I still have that draw to it, like a moth. I describe it like a moth to a flame. But because I've got more awareness around it, I have more of a chance of pressing that pause button and saying, actually, this is probably not a good idea.
Do you know what? I love the way you describe that because, first of all, I mean, it's really deep what you've just said there. The fact that you realize that you're attracted to certain dramas, and I love the fact you said that you're still working on it. It's not like you're cured, it's something that you have to always be quite aware and conscious of. And you've got good days and maybe you've got not so good days.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that you're aware of it and you're conscious of it, I think And you know what went through my mind? I can imagine growing up, especially with the drugs, thinking to yourself, this is not what I want to do, but not being able to help yourself because you didn't have the tools to say, actually, maybe you might be drawn to certain experiences. You didn't have that capacity. And maybe people around you didn't have that capacity to say, maybe you're more drawn to it than this other person, you know? But
Definitely.
yeah.
Without a doubt, because growing up through my teenage years, I had friends who experimented with the same substances, with the same friendship groups.
Yeah.
We did the same things, but something in me, and this was huge to me when I started learning about this. I reacted differently to those substances than they did. So they didn't get what I got out of it at all. And they could literally take it or leave it. And throughout my life I've met people like that that can just take things or leave it, and that they might say, well, I need to go home now because I've got work in the morning.
Yeah.
Whereas
Well,
my
getting
brain would
started.
already be on a roll. It'd be like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not going. I'll be at work, but I'm not going home yet. And then it would be like, oh, actually, I should be at work now, literally now, and I'm not. I'm still here. So yeah, that's huge, and I understand myself in that way.
I love this word because I keep looking at you with your quiff and your nice skin and your psychotherapist. But you are like a heavy drug user, drawn to drama. And I love the fact that you're sitting here being able to articulate it, because there's people out there listening that feel so ashamed and judged and confused and sad and depressed. But that's why we do
That's
this.
exactly. So that's what I was like. I couldn't understand. I just wrote myself off as there's something wrong with me. I would flip from there's something seriously wrong with me. Why can't I stop? To the other point of the coin would be, I just love drugs. I must just love it. I must just love this. And I did convince myself in the end, like you were saying about the alcohol, I convinced myself that I just must love what I'm doing. And not just, I didn't just do it to me, professionals did it as well. So I remember going to various places for help. I'm saying that because I don't know what I wanted. I was just going there. I don't know how committed I was. And they would give me suggestions and advice, but they didn't understand either who or what they were talking to or what they were dealing with. So they would give me advice that I couldn't possibly maintain. It was impossible. So they would say things like, you just need to find some willpower.
Can I take a moment of your time and ask for a huge favour? If you could please comment, share and subscribe to this podcast. There are so many people out there who are having a real difficult time, and hearing the stories of others can help. Enjoy the rest of the podcast.
Toddler, if anyone doubts my willpower, they need to speak to my mum, because I'm very strong-willed, and people that know, and a lot of people that I know in recovery are the most strong-willed people you'll ever meet. So I was going into services, and professionals were saying to me, you need to find some willpower, and or they would say you need to get a hobby, as if as if my addiction was a product of being weak-willed or being bored. And I'm just saying this with anybody that's watching this, by the end of my addiction, well, all through my addiction, I was busy because I had to fund an addiction. So I was always busy. I was never sat, I didn't, by the end of my addiction, I was using crack and heroin, which is a very time consuming, it was time consuming getting the money, because you never have enough money. So it's never enough. So you never have a day off these things. So, for me, it was almost like the professionals were saying to me, well, if you get a hobby, and you need to do this, or you need to build your self-confidence or your self-esteem. And I was confused, because it was like, well, I'm not waking up at 11 o'clock in the morning and thinking, oh, I'm a bit bored today, I think I'll go and score. You know, I was being woken up by the knock in my own head saying, right, you need to get up, you need to do what you need to do. So I was, the way I look at it is they didn't understand addiction. And I'm going to say it, still don't. A lot of people still don't, even in services.
Yeah.
But they were trying to give it, so they do things like reduction plans. I'll tell you what, instead of, using this amount of crack, let's see if we can get it down. Now, anybody that knows about addiction, especially things like crack and cocaine, it's like you don't think, oh, right, I'm going to stop now. You might plan to stop, but once you start, that's the whole thing. Addiction, the definition of addiction is lack of control.
So what do you think about harm reduction? Is that what you're saying? You don't think harm reduction really is always useful?
I think it has a place. Some harm reduction definitely has a place for some people. And obviously around HIV and things like that, it's definitely helped. Without a doubt, it's helped with, stopping the spread of HIV and bloodborne viruses because of the needle exchanges and things like that. So it's definitely got a place.
Yeah.
But I think it's very dependent on the type of person you're speaking to, their circumstances, the way their brain works.
Yeah.
And their patients.
I hear it. So this is about being more person-centered. And when you go to certain organizations who are seeing people like a conveyor belt, they've got certain rules, regulations, things, tick boxes they must and they mustn't do. And one size doesn't fit all. And it seems that sometimes it can be a bit like that.
Yeah, you could not tell me, because I would also lie. I'm a liar because I'm in denial. When I'm in addiction, I want to please, and plus I'm a people pleaser as well, Lou. So if I've got a worker that says, let's try and get you down to this amount for next week or the week after or the month after, nowadays they're so busy, you might only see somebody every 3 months, once every 3 months. And I don't want to disappoint that person because I want them to think that I'm doing all right and that I'm a strong person. So I'm going to lie and say, oh, yeah, I'm only doing this. And I might even be lying to myself, which makes me a really good liar because then I believe my own lies.
That's
but
so
then
insightful.
Then when the reality kicks in, of actually I'm unable to do that, then it's like, well, I know that I'm really strong and I know that I'm capable. So that must mean that it's not that I can't control it. It must be that I'm choosing to do it. I'm choosing drugs. So one of the things that I used to get told quite regularly is when you're just going to grow out of it. When you've had enough of the lifestyle that you're leading, when you've really had enough, you'll just stop. Which then I interpreted as, well, that means that I've not had enough then. That means that I must like this. Now, bearing in mind, at the end of my addiction, I was, and it wasn't always like this, but for a short time at the end of my addiction, I ended up prostituting for money for drugs. I was in situations that were very scary. I was around people that were hurting each other, harming each other for money and for drugs. That had become the norm for me. So it was quite intense. So to have that internally, well, is this not enough? This happened last night, or this happens on a regular basis. And I don't like it, but then I must not have had enough.
So I'm trying to get my head around, because you've said some such bloody nuggets of insight. So you are strong-minded. Did you want to, around that time when you were interpreting it as, well, maybe I haven't had enough because the experts are telling me I'll grow out of it, or when I've had enough, I'll stop. But you're a really strong-minded person. Silly question, but did you want to stop? do you think?
I wanted the consequences to stop.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's pause there just for a second. You wanted the consequences to stop. So I was a heavy smoker.
Yeah.
And I used to drink when I smoked. And yeah, I've dabbled in drugs here or there, but not enough for it to be a consistent, right? If smoking was not bad for me, and drinking the way that alcohol made me feel wasn't bad for me, I would probably continue doing it. So did I want to stop? Yes and no. Yes, because it wasn't good. I was feeling munged out. I was smelling. I wasn't a really nice person at times. But no, because it's a fun thing to do. It's just something to do, and it takes you to a place that's different than where you are. So my question to you was, did you want to stop the drugs?
I only wanted to stop when the drugs stopped working. So that's the nugget. So eventually, in the last 2 years, 3 years maybe of my using, the drugs had stopped working. So whether that was because my tolerance was too high, whether that was because the drugs were not as strong as they used to be, that's also a factor. And whether it was that my circumstances, if you think about a scale, the drugs weren't working enough for me to justify the bad stuff. I'm trying not to swear. The bad stuff that was happening. So eventually, after trying to continue using, so I didn't want to stop in that respect. I wanted to continue using. I wanted the drugs to do what I wanted them to do, and they had stopped. So the way I describe it is, I didn't give up on the drugs gave up on me. And no matter how many I could get, no matter how much money I made, and I could make quite a lot of money on some days, whatever I bought wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. And I felt continually ripped off. So I felt like I'd been had off constantly, and it was never satisfying me. And that started then to be a turning point for me, to be, well, hang on, I've had a few moments of clarity along the way. And one of the moments was, I'm doing all this, putting myself at risk. At this point, I'm prostituting, which I never thought would happen. I'm being not treated very well by the person that I'm living with, that I think I'm in love with, and that I think is my soulmate. That's not going well. Yeah, that's not going well. Nothing I can do, no amount of money is making him happier. So I'm constantly trying to prove myself, constantly trying to attain something. I don't even know what at that point. I thought it was love, respect. That's what I thought it was. So I'm working all the time for that. I'm working to feel better in myself because of the drugs, and it just stopped. And I just had that moment where I thought, well, if I wasn't using, then I wouldn't be having to do all this other stuff and spending all this money. And I would probably feel the same as I do now, which is pretty shitty. So with or without drugs, I would have felt, in my eyes, it would be, but at least I wouldn't be having to spend hundreds of pounds a day and be in this situation. Yeah.
I know that feeling when it stops working. Because when it works, you feel better. And then all of a sudden, you don't feel good. So actually, you feel worse. So tell me what happened when you found out you had HIV.
So I believe, and again, this is why one of the reasons I wanted to do this with you is that I have learned, and it's a learned thing, and I've practiced it and learned look on the positive side of things, and I think that's really important. It's a coping mechanism, and it's one that's been absolutely essential to me. I was very lucky that I had just been introduced to recovery, and I was about a year into my recovery process. So I was very fortunate. I'd started on my recovery journey. I was very young and immature in that journey and didn't know a lot. However, I had people around me that were good enough to guide me. So when I was about a year, just about reaching a year clean. And there'd been a lot of things in the drug services around hepatitis C. Hepatitis C is pushed to the max.
Yeah, it is.
You don't really hear about HIV.
Don't.
So I fully believed that I would be Hep C positive. That's what I believed. I didn't really think about HIV at all, if I'm honestly, because I knew a little bit about it, and I didn't believe that I'd put myself at risk.
Yeah.
So I knew enough to believe that I hadn't put myself at risk in respect of, I knew that the virus was quite delicate and that it died very quickly outside the body. It died very quickly within certain, it has to be within certain temperatures.
Yeah.
So I can't even remember how I knew this, but I knew it. I knew that if you were injecting and sharing needles, there was a chance. However, it had to be under certain circumstances. So, if you wash syringes out or you got, then the risk was minute.
Yeah.
So I was expecting to have hepatitis C and not anything else really. And I went to the clinic I just had this feeling, and it was a strange, when the universe just works around you. So
yeah,
I thought, I'm going to go, because it kept coming to my mind, and I was seeing posters, and I thought, you know what, I should go and find out if I've got hepatitis C, because if I have, then I knew there was treatments were being brought out for hepatitis C. And my partner at the time, and I use that word loosely, but I was saying we should go to the clinic and get tested, or the drug service and get tested. And he was very reluctant to do it. And I couldn't understand why that would be. So I was like, well, I'm in a position now, I've stopped using drugs. I'm trying to build my life up. And if there is any medical stuff that I need to deal with, then I need to take personal responsibility and address that. So I went on my own, and whilst I was there, whilst I was at the GUM clinic, I just said, just test me for everything. It was a no-brainer. Why would I just be tested for one thing? Test me for everything. I'm here, do it. And I struggle. I haven't really got any veins even now. They struggle to get blood out of me because I was an intravenous drug user. So they tried and they couldn't get any blood. So they actually sent me away. They said, we can't test you for everything because we can't get blood out. And they sent me away. And and it was winter. And I remember about 2 weeks after they sent me away, they rang me back. They said, just come back when, after a few years, your vessels will be better. And 2 weeks later, they rang me and they said, come back in. We've got somebody in clinic, a consultant that can take blood out of either your groin or your neck.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, maybe I should. And I just thought, yeah, just go. And I went. And they took the blood, and that's when I got a call I think within about 48 hours. They rang me and said, we need you to come into the clinic. I went in, and that's when they actually sat me down and said, the way they said it, it's funny as well, isn't it, when you come into contact with professionals. So they said, the good news is, your test came clear for everything. And I was like, oh. And they said, however, you have got HIV. And I thought, well, that's not clear for everything, is it? But I was really shocked by it. I was really shocked by it because I wasn't expecting it. And I remember within that moment, I'm so lucky that I was in recovery, because my first thought was, actually, whatever's happened, and I've obviously got it because the tests say I'm so lucky to be in a country that I can get medication. That was my first. Look for the silver lining. Look for the gratitude. There's people in countries that can't get medication. And then because I'm like an addict person, I would describe myself as an addict personality. My second thought was, what can I get? Can I get? Am I going to get more? Am I going to get benefits? Am I going to get a free bus pass? Am I going to, I mean, none of that happened, but yeah, I was able to get medication eventually, not straight away because I didn't need it, but yeah, it was a shock.
So how was you over the years? Was you like, did you feel stigmatized at all, or was you did?
Yeah, so the first thing that happened, luckily I had people around me that were in recovery. I'm part of a 12-step fellowship, and I had people around me that I didn't tell them straight away. I remember, so in 12-step fellowships, people often get sponsors, and I had a sponsor at this point. So it took me a while, but at this point I did have a sponsor, which was a woman who was further along her recovery journey. And the reason why I got this particular lady was she was quite hardcore. She was very hardcore, very no nonsense. And I remember going to tell her and expecting sympathy. I didn't know anybody else who had HIV. Not even like, I didn't know anybody who'd ever been diagnosed HIV positive. So for me it was huge, and I was stigmatizing myself because I didn't know anybody. So I went to her, and she was fantastic. Looking back, she was fantastic because she didn't allow me to wallow that self-pity. She was just like quite blasé, if I'm honest. She just went, you've got a second, you've got a secondary illness. And I said, what do you mean a secondary illness? And she said, well, number one, you're a drug addict. That's the first one. That's the one that will kill you quicker. You can live for a long time with HIV. If you go and use, you can die like that or have a slow death. And she really put it in perspective. And she was like, but a few people, one of the people that I told very soon, because I was a bit in shock, she didn't really give, it was the wrong person to tell. And this is the thing, sometimes you go to the wrong people. And she said, oh, you can't possibly tell anybody about that. You can't possibly.
I had
and I was
that.
like, oh, now I feel shame. So I had been going to recovery meetings with other people in recovery from drug addiction and sharing anything, feeling comfortable to say anything about myself. And then all of a sudden, I felt shame, and that stigmatized. So I stopped, I started, my head was going because I'm an overthinker. So a lot of people who use drugs are overthinkers and they get obsessed. They're obsessed with things. So I started thinking, well, I don't want to sit too close to someone. I don't want to drink out of someone's cups. I can't hug someone wants to come and hug me, should I be hugging them? Should my godkids be climbing on my knee? All that.
I had that.
If she knew that I had HIV, would she allow her kids to come and be calling me Aunty Lisa and
I know, I hear you. Like, I absolutely relate to that. I really do. So, oh my God, what a journey, Lisa.
But what happened with that did change. And this is one of the beautiful things about being in recovery communities. So I'm very solution focused, and I believe that is because of what my recovery has taught me. You can look on the bad side and wallow, or you can look for solutions and thrive. So I sourced people so in recovery, what I had to do was I started to go to people who had lived the same way as me, done the same things as me, but now we're living differently and we're happy. That was the biggest thing, that they were happy.
Yeah.
They were happy without using drugs. And that was so alien to me. But I thought, if you're happy without drugs, then maybe you can teach me. I have to do what you do. So I did the same with the HIV. Reached out to some charities, rang them, said, have you got any women that are HIV positive?
Yeah.
Can I come? Can I meet them? Can I come? And then it becomes more normalized. And also a huge thing for me was that I hadn't been sharing openly about it, although I had told the lady that was mentoring me. I went to a recovery meeting in a different town, full of this stigma. On the outside, I felt like a shiny apple, really healthy, but on the inside, I felt like an apple with maggots in it. I could almost feel it. You know that way you can almost feel it in your veins. And this guy was there, and he was talking. He was doing like the guest speaker slot, and he spoke for 20 minutes, and he spoke about his recovery, and he mentioned that he was HIV positive, Hep C, Hep B. He'd had every virus. He'd done the same things as me to fund a drug addiction, and I looked around the room as he was saying it, and this guy was he was from Manchester, this guy, and the place where we were at this recovery meeting was in Liverpool. So you know the Manchester Liverpool stuff. So I'm looking around at all these big scousers, and the break came, and they all like clapped his story, and then went over and started hugging him, started chatting. He was smiling, he was laughing. And all of a sudden, the penny dropped that, you know what? There's no stigma in here. If people don't like it, they don't have to go near him. But the ones that are going, so I realized there that, okay, this guy's just role model to me. That bravery and courage, and he's accepted and he's loved. So maybe I can get love, even though I'm so down on myself and thinking that no one's going to accept me.
Oh my God, I love that. So actually, sometimes it's something like, I said the small things, but the everyday things, like seeing someone that's got HIV and you feel quite inspired, and you think, actually, you know, and that's why we're doing what we're doing, and that's why we're sharing stories, so that people don't feel like they're alone. Not just for HIV, but drug addiction, sex work, anything where people feel like less than, because they're not. Oh wow, what a story. So okay, so I'm gonna end the interview by asking you, if there's someone listening to this podcast now, and they're in a really difficult situation, be it HIV, be it mental health, be it anything, what would you say to them?
I would say that find your people, find your tribe that are going to, because it isn't easy, whatever it is. I believe that, so I have a little internal, it gets called different things. Some people call it the internal critic. Some people call it the devil on the shoulder. That self-destructive thing. And that lives within me, so it knows my weaknesses. And whether that weakness is that, you know, whether it's abuse, whether you've experienced sexual abuse or abuse as a child, or neglect, or stuff has happened in your teenage or adult years, whether it's illness, whether it's something that you've done that you feel shame around, reach out and really find some people who are accepting of that, and who are going to, because nobody is unique we're all unique, but there's always similarities. And you just never know who these people are. Like, I meet people and they would never think that I was like at one point like 5.5 stone, 6 stone, cracking heroin addict, prostitute. They'd never think that I was HIV positive if you met me at a conference or so. Find some space with people who share their stories and just have that a little bit of courage to trust a couple of people to share your stuff. It doesn't have to be everybody. And even if they don't identify, they will be able to hopefully find somebody. So I get calls now from people saying, look, can I pass your number on? I heard you speak at a conference 5 years ago and there's a girl or there's a man that's experienced something similar. So it's about reaching out and getting those networks. And especially around the drug addiction, it's exactly the same skills. So when I was using drugs, and also when I came into recovery, this lady who mentored me, she said to me, I said, oh, I can't possibly ring somebody that I don't know really well. And she said, well, you do it all the time when you're ringing people for drugs or, when you're meeting people to get money off them, I said, oh, you don't understand. I've got social anxiety and I listed all this stuff off. And she kind of said, oh, she swore at me basically and she said like, oh, get over yourself. She said, you ring people and meet them to do drug deals, you don't know them. Anything could happen. You're meeting strangers that you don't know to get money and doing things with them. Anything could happen. She said, you're sitting in drug dens with people that you don't like, even that could erupt in violence or, at any given moment. So she was like, that's just your head telling you this stuff, but actually you can put these same behaviors into good. Instead of it being negative, you can put it into good. So I would say find your tribe, speak to people, reach out. You're not on your own, definitely not. And actually, for me, I thrive. For me, it was a turning point. I'm not saying it's easy, but actually, it really trims off the bullshit of life.
Yeah, it does.
I haven't got time.
It
Yeah,
does.
I haven't got, I want the best for people, but I want the best for me as well. It's helped me value myself. I came out of a relationship which was not healthy at all, quite abusive at times. I thought that I had to stay with him because he was positive as well. Eventually, I found out that was the reason that he didn't want to go for the test. So I've branched out and realized that I'm more than a diagnosis. I'm more than one part of my life. I'm actually quite valuable to myself, but to others as well, but more importantly to me. I make a difference in my life and hopefully for the positive in other people's. And anybody can do that. Sometimes we just need that role modeling and somebody to give us that kick up the arse to say, actually, you've got, and the lady that I first ever told, who was my mentor at the time, she said to me, you have got an obligation, you've got a responsibility to show people that just because you've been diagnosed with HIV, just because you've experienced the traumatic stuff that you've experienced, it's not an excuse, and you can still be happy. You can still have joy and bring joy to the world and other people, and that has come to fruition. So yeah, you can be in doom and gloom, but you can also choose to not be and use it to your advantage.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Use it.
Wow. Oh, Lisa, thank you so much. So you're not that active on social media. So if somebody wants to contact you, have you got a website?
I have got a website, so I've got a couple. So if they want to contact me direct, I've got a website which is www.north-star therapy and training. I have got a Facebook page now for one of my CICs that I'm running, which is at livedlives.uk. So that's www.livedlives.uk. And I will be more active on social media. I will. I'm getting to grips with it. I'm slowly getting.
This is a great start, and we'll talk afterwards a little bit more about the socials. But stay on the line. Let me stop the recording, and thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for watching Aunty Lou's Hour. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe.